Well, hello, and welcome. So this is my today is supposedly Parental Alienation Awareness Day, and so I thought I'd make a statement uh, today uh, about parental alienation, which is essentially parental alienation doesn't exist. There's no such pathology called parental alienation. It's a made-up pathology label. And I've been telling people for 15 years, stop using parental alienation, stop making things up. But parents and you people keep using parental alienation, and it destroys your life because there's no such thing. It's a persecutory delusion, but you just make stuff up. And then you try to prove parental alienation to judges and legislators and all sorts of people. And I've watched for 15 years. It destroys life after life after life. And people need to stop using parental alienation. So let me talk a little bit more about that. Here today on Parental Alienation Awareness Day, Unicorn Awareness Day. There's no such thing as parental alienation. It is a made up pathology label. Everyone needs to stop using euphemisms for child abuse. The actual pathology is a persecutory delusion. The allied parent has a major psychiatric disorder. Apply the DSM-5. Okay, stop making up made up pathology labels. I've worked child abuse. Before I came into the family courts, I was working with child abuse, physical, sexual neglect, kids in foster care. One of the things about working in child abuse is we do not use euphemisms for child abuse. When it's child abuse, say child abuse, but you're covering up the child abuse when you use a euphemism like parental alienation that makes it sound like that's just bad parenting, maybe. Maybe they're alienating that. No, the narcissistic borderline dark personality allied parent has a major psychiatric disorder, a delusional disorder, DSM-5 297.1. It needs a diagnosis so that we can get treatment for the child abuse, not parental alienation. So from me, my recommendation, 15 years, do not use euphemisms for child abuse. It is not inappropriate affection syndrome, it's child sexual abuse. It is not harsh discipline dynamic, it is child physical abuse, and it is not parental alienation, it is not resist refuse dynamic, it is not parent child contact problems, it is child psychological abuse. DSM 5 V995.51. It is a delusional disorder, DSM-5 297.1. It is a factitious disorder imposed on another, DSM-5 300.19. The moment we use and apply the DSM-5, everything is solved. Don't believe me? Try it. Just try it. Try applying the DSM-5. Now, over 20 years, 40 years of parental alienation since the 1980s, people have been saying, well, parental alienation's not in the DSM. Yes, it's not. However, delusional thought disorders are. Delusional disorder, factitious disorder, all of those are in the DSM-5. So let's apply the DSM-5. Why are you trying to create a new form of pathology? Just making stuff up. Stop making things up. Stop making things up, you parents. But you're vulnerable. You come in and you're disoriented by the nature of the pathology. It's a pathology of lies, and you enter the family courts. You don't know what's going on, so you grasp at things, and you encounter this term parental alienation, and you go, "That's what it is," not knowing the professional level description of it. It's not, and then you start to promote your parental alienation, and that takes you away from effective advocacy. If you got court orders that were specifically asking for an assessment of a delusional thought disorder, you'd get an assessment for a delusional thought disorder. Instead, you ask for parental alienation, and everybody just makes it up. The forensic evaluators say, "Oh, there's no alienation here," but there's no way to hold them accountable because everybody just makes stuff up, whatever they want. They make up new forms of assessment and forensic custody evaluations. They make up new forms of pathology, and it destroys the lives of children. For 40 years, it's destroyed the lives of children. And nobody listens. Nobody's, all right. If you want to use parental alienation, go ahead and use it. All you parents, go ahead and use it. Your lives will be destroyed as they have been destroyed for 40 years for all the parents that came before you. You're going to have to prove it to a judge in court over 5, 6, 7 years, and the pathology just going on, and try it. Go ahead. If you use parental alienation, you are not demonstrating the seriousness, the parental responsibility necessary to solve and protect your child. You need to stop going at easy solutions and actually learn the nature of the pathology and learn what to do. And the professionals who promote this are problematic. So, DSM-5, stop making things up. Stop making up new forms of pathology. Apply the DSM-5. The very moment we apply the DSM-5, everything is solved. So all you people promoting parental alienation at your Parental Alienation Awareness Day are slowing down the solution by making up new pathology and promoting those within the general public. The allied parent has a major psychiatric disorder. The allied parent has a delusional disorder, persecutory type. It's a factitious disorder imposed on another, a false attachment pathology. It's child psychological abuse, and it's spousal abuse of the targeted parent by the allied parent using the child as a weapon. There's your DSM-5 diagnoses, 4 diagnoses. Can we please get those assessed? Because if you assess for them, if you look for them, they're there. But no, we can't get those assessed because everybody's looking for parental alienation and defining it however they want to define it. And I'm so done. So if you're a parent using parental alienation, welcome to your world, and I'm going to go be doing something else. I'm going to be trying to solve the problem. Here's my consulting website. You can get this off the attorney resource page. These are the differential diagnoses. It's path A, path B. Path A is that the targeted parent is abusing the child, somehow creating the child's rejection of that parent. Path B is that it's the allied parent who's creating the persecutory delusion and factitious attachment pathology, psychologically abusing the child. So one parent or the other is abusing the child when I have a child seeking to flee from a parent. That symptom, a child seeking to flee from a parent, a child rejecting a parent, is a symptom of child abuse by one parent or the other. So we need to determine which parent is abusing the child. Which parent is abusing the child? That's a differential diagnosis. To get more specific, is it a persecutory delusion in the allied parent? Yes or no? We need that question answered. All court cases need these questions answered. Is the allied parent have a persecutory delusion that they're imposing on the child? Is there a factitious attachment pathology imposed on the child? 300.19. And is it spousal abuse of the targeted parent using the child as the weapon? Yes or no? We need those questions answered for treatment, to protect the child. That's what we need. DSM-5, real things. Stop making things up. Stop making up new forms of pathology. Stop making up new forms of assessment. Stop making up new forms of treatment. Diagnosis guides treatment. Let's get a DSM-5 diagnosis, diagnose child abuse, then we can protect the child. What's the treatment for parental alienation? Who knows? It's a made-up pathology. We can't even get it. Agreed to that there is such a thing, and there isn't. 2013, the American Psychiatric Association looked at it and said, no, there's no such thing as parental alienation. It's a made-up euphemism pathology, destroying thousands, hundreds of thousands of lives over the last 40 years. There's no such thing as parental alienation. Stop using euphemisms for child abuse. Stop it, stop it, stop it. It's a persecutory delusion, 297.1. The moment we switch to the DSM-5, we can hold the mental health people accountable to real things. The problem you're facing in the family courts is institutional betrayal by the forensic custody evaluators in the family courts, by the psychologists. And that's an article, Smith and Freud. You go to my parent resources page and you can find these articles, Psychology of Judicial Betrayal by Freud's group, and then also the APA, institutional betrayal, having to do with that enhanced interrogation side. So that's the situation that's in the family courts, is a group of psychologists, the forensic custody evaluators, have captured the field and are offering the courts and parents only their made up, fabricated, experimental custody evaluation approach and their quasi-judicial role, and they are withholding diagnostic assessments. The forensic custody evaluators are ignorant, lack knowledge or information, incompetent, they don't know attachment pathology or delusional thought disorders, and unethical violations of 2.01, 2.04, 9.01, and 3.04. We cannot hold them accountable, the psychologists, for their incompetence and unethical practice until we rely on real things. The moment we rely on the DSM-5, then we have the delusional thought disorder, factitious disorder. We can hold them accountable for whether or not they know how to assess that and whether they did assess for that. It's an attachment pathology, a problem in love and bonding. The moment we define it as an attachment pathology, disorganized attachment, no organized strategy to bond to the parent, we can hold them accountable for their knowledge and lack of knowledge in attachment pathology. But if we're defining as parental alienation, everybody gets to make up whatever they want and say it's there, it's not there, and maybe, and who knows, and there's no established knowledge associated with it. We have to address the institutional capture. We need to get the forensic custody evaluators out. We need to get clinical diagnosis back. And so that's what I'm working on. New York Blue Ribbon Commission, forensic custody evaluations are, in some custody cases, because of a lack of evidence or an ability of parties to pay for expensive challenges of an evaluation, defective reports can thus escape meaningful scrutiny and are often accepted by the court with potentially disastrous consequences. By an 11-9 margin, a majority of commission members favor elimination of forensic custody evaluations entirely, arguing that these reports are biased and harmful to children, that they lack scientific and legal value, and at worst, they can be dangerous, particularly in situations of domestic violence and abuse. That's out of the New York Blue Ribbon Commission. I agree with them 100%. I get to review these custody evaluations. They are the worst imaginable. Think about this for a second. The patient should never have to explain the pathology to the doctor. You parents are having to explain the pathology to the doctor. The delusional disorder, the factitious disorder, that's so bad. They are ignorant. They are incompetent when the patient has to explain that delusional disorders and factitious disorders and the child's psychological abuse. But that's what you're having to do. Do you have to explain parental alienation to them? No, they already know what that is. They've known for 40 years. It's solved nothing because it's a non-existent thing. It's just made up. It's a made up pathology label. The issue is not that people don't know what the pathology is. The problem is this institutional capture and institutional betrayal by the forensic custody evaluators. We need to get focused on the custody evaluators and get you real mental health services in here. But I'll talk about that later, some other time. So what I'm doing and recommend that parents do is challenge them on 2.01 boundaries of competence. So I've got this OWL project I'm working on with some parents where we're going to go back and do a review of VITA, the curriculum vitae, the resumes of all the custody evaluators. We're going to look at the forensic custody evaluators, look to get their vitas from them, and we're going to look for competence in attachment pathology and delusional thought disorders. See how when we rely on real established knowledge, we can hold them accountable. So we're going to do that with an AI. We're going to get an AI review of their vita to see where they obtained their training, education, and experience in attachment pathology and the diagnostic assessment of delusional thought disorders. It's not going to be there. That's a violation of 2.01. At that point, once we get the vitas and do the systematic sort of review of what the vita of forensic custody evaluators look like, then the parents I'm working with, I call them my owls because I like owls. When the parents, once we get this data, the next step is once it's collected and analyzed, will be up to the parents. I'm going to be in discussion with them as to what we do next about this. Now, personally, I will have 1.04 and 1.05 allegation mandatory obligations. So if I learn there might be an ethical violation, I have to do things. So that will trigger for me on the when I look at the 2.01 violations. But then we'll talk about what the next steps would be. I would like parent leadership in this next step to promote sort of parent advocacy, and for a variety of reasons. One is you're traumatized, and I think that advocacy, effective advocacy, will help with your trauma. But we could report to the APA Ethics Committee the result of the findings, to the AFCC Board of Directors, and to licensing boards. And those would all be covered under the standard 1.05 of the APA Ethics Code. So those would be options if the data shows that they're not competent, which I anticipate it will. There's also, we can contact the state legislator oversight committees for the licensing boards. Why are licensing boards allowing these dangerous custody evaluations that are harmful to children, that lack scientific legal value, that produce potentially disastrous consequences for the public in their states? Why are they allowing 2.01 violations of just basic competence? The licensing boards are supposed to protect the public, not the psychologists. That's the institutional capture, the regulatory capture, and institutional betrayal. So we can contact those potentially, and we'll talk about those once we get the data in. But there's legislative oversight committees for the board licensing boards. The Center for Institutional Courage, that's Jennifer Freud's group around institutional betrayal trauma. We can contact media outlets when we demonstrate that consistently throughout the family courts, these custody evaluators are not competent in what they need to attachment pathology. The problem in love and bonding is attachment, but they're not competent. Delusional thought disorders, they're not competent in assessing that. And so we can get a hold of the media and provide that. We can even write journal articles about this, and I would anticipate that this OWL project may indeed result in some journal articles potentially. And so that's going on right now. I just had my first OWL meetings last week with some parents, And so if you're interested in becoming an owl and working on this project, just get a hold of my case manager on it, Sal, and we'll get you integrated into this. I'm thinking we're going to start doing this over the summer. And I'd like to work with parent organizations. I think there's a lot of valid and good reasons to involve parents and parent organizations in this process of self-advocacy. I've worked a lot of research. I can manage the research side of things and data collection and looking at things. The issue, custody evaluations, they get quasi-judicial immunity. So once they're court appointed, the licensing boards don't review their reports. Plus, you have to get release from both parents, and one parent, the pathological parent, doesn't agree. So it's a de facto non-review of forensic custody evaluations, which is why the caliber has gone to the absolute bottom. Nobody's holding them accountable. However, they're vulnerable on standard 2.01 boundaries of competence because that's their vita. So if you get their vita and look at their vita and they're not competent in delusions and attachment pathology, that's your ethical violation. And that doesn't get quasi-judicial immunity. That there's no release of information on that. So that's where we're headed. Dr. Childress has taken my owls. We're going to go to their vitas. We're going to do an AI analysis of it. I'll put Claude on it. I did that AI analysis last year with ChatGPT with 8 top forensic custody evaluators. All 8 top custody evaluators were not competent in 2.01. So they're not they promote themselves as experts. They're not experts in anything. They're not even at the level of basic competence. They're below competence, but they're presenting themselves to the court and to parents and everybody as though they're somehow an expert in something. No, you're not competent in delusions or attachment, and you don't care. You're not going out to learn the information that you need to know. You're just lazy because no one's holding you accountable. And so we're going to be dealing with that. That's what I'm doing to stop the child abuse in the family courts. What are you doing? You're protesting about parental alienation for 40 years, but produces nothing, and you're just kind of wasting efforts and energies and focus, and it keeps you active without being effective. And that's what it's done for 40 years. Parents have advocated, active without impact. Well, stop using parental alienation, switch over to the DSM-5, and let's have impact. Do you do that? No. You're having 2026 Parental Alienation Awareness Day. All right, whatever. Do whatever you think is best. Ultimately, I think this is going to go to a class action lawsuit to solve this. I'm a psychologist, not an attorney, so recognize that. But from where I sit as a psychologist, I believe the situation in the family courts warrants a class action lawsuit naming the 50 state licensing boards, the AFCC, the APA, and forensic psychologists as the defendants. The AI, and I've got a blog on this you can read, the AI estimates, that's all 4 AI, I talked to all 4 of them, Grok, ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini. And the AI estimates between 300,000 and 1.5 million now adult children and their parents who were trauma survivors from 40 years of a failed experiment on human subjects, these custody evaluations by the forensic custody evaluation industry. So that's, for me, important to understand. We have a huge number of now adult children, traumatized victims, child abuse victims who don't realize it. And they're still lost in their trauma world and don't realize what happened to them and have not been recovered into healthy development. And we have their parents who have lost their children, traumatic grief, and both the children and the parents had their lives destroyed across 40 years of forensic custody evaluations, this experiment on human subjects. And so It's not enough for me to solve the situation in the family courts. That's actually really easy. We just get a diagnosis and treatment for the child abuse, a delusional thought disorder, easy peasy. The moment we apply the DSM-5, everything in the family courts is solved. But we still have the 300,000 to 1.5 million trauma survivors out in the general public, the children who've lost their parent, a normal range, healthy, loving parent, and the parents who've lost their child. And it's not okay for me just to abandon them. So that's where the class action lawsuit is designed to recover those children as well. So you get a class action lawsuit. I'm anticipating it would be settled with the state licensing boards and the state legislators to get some funding in, and then it's settled with the APA to get some training in, and we actually focus on the family court situation and solve it. And so that's my belief as to where the solution is going to be headed. And so that's part of what my OWLS project is doing, is documenting in the 2.01 violations. I've already discharged my duty to protect to the California Board of Psychology. So now they're on the licensing boards are now on the hook for a class action lawsuit. So I'll just keep documenting things in. I'll keep doing what I'm doing. And as soon as anybody cares enough to solve the pathology in the family courts, it's solved immediately. 40 years has been a tremendous waste and unnecessary waste. If we had diagnosed the delusional disorder was in the DSM-4, shared psychotic disorder. If we had diagnosed it back in 1980s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, diagnosed a delusional disorder, that's child psychological abuse, we protect the child, everything's solved. Apply the DSM-5, everything is solved. Don't apply it, everything is a mess. And everybody, parents are being financially exploited by every professional in the family courts. This is just such an abomination of financial exploitation of a vulnerable population by the professionals, particularly by the forensic custody evaluators. And they have a tremendous conflict of interest now, because if we stop doing their experimental assessment approach and return to diagnosis and treatment, they immediately leave the family courts. We don't need them anymore. That's what they do. They're not competent. So they lose their career as custody evaluators. So they have a financial interest in maintaining the status quo of no solution, because that's how they make their money, is from doing these custody evaluations. If we solve it, we don't need them. And so it's just a mess. It's just an absolute nightmare in the family courts. So the forensic psychologists in the family courts are ignorant. Google ignorant, lack of knowledge or information. Parents need to educate the doctors about the pathology. There's no more clear evidence that the forensic custody evaluators are ignorant than they have to be educated by the parents, by the patient, about the delusional thought disorder, factitious disorder, and how to assess for it. It's just so bad. They are incompetent. They lack the needed professional knowledge in attachment pathology, delusional thought disorders, personality disorder pathology, and family systems. They are unethical. Violations to standard 2.01, 2.04, 9.01, 3.04, and failure in the duty to protect their children from child abuse and the parents from spousal abuse. And they don't care. That's the abomination of abominations. They are ignorant, incompetent, unethical, and they don't care. And that's the current state of the situation. That's the institutional betrayal and regulatory capture. So again, here's what diagnostic questions, yes or no. Just get these questions answered from somebody. You won't be able to get them answered. The forensic custody evaluators will say, no, I'm not going to answer your questions. Get them into court orders. Get your court orders to ask for these questions to be answered. And the mental health people will then be put in a position of having to go, no, Your Honor, I'm not going to tell you which parent is abusing the child. Why not? Because I'm not competent. I don't know how to assess for that. And so there's your specific questions. Yes or no. Just get yes or no answers. Do you know how bad that is for a doctor? You go, doctor, do I have cancer? I'm not going to tell you. Yes or no, do I have cancer? I'm not going to tell you whether or not you have cancer. I'm just going to treat with something. I don't know. And you're going to die. And oh, well. We need to stop the forensic custody evaluators. We need to get back to diagnosis and treatment. We need to solve the pathology. We need to protect the children from child abuse. We need to protect their parents from spousal abuse. Somebody needs to care enough to stop the child abuse in the family courts. So I have a consulting website. You can go up and I have all the information up. The diagnostic questions is over on the attorney's page. I've got mental health page. I've got all the videos and forms and descriptions and stuff. Parents, I've got the institutional capture articles and information for you over there. The outcome measures and things. I have YouTube videos. You can watch the YouTube videos over on my website. You just go to the YouTube section and I have like the diagnosis series. I tell everybody how to diagnose delusions, factitious disorder, child abuse. I tell everybody what the DSM. I'm spoon feeding the professionals. I'm spoon feeding you just what to do. I've got the clinical case vignettes. That you can watch the vignettes. I've got 2 for the narcissistic pattern, 2 for the borderline pattern. GALs can watch the vignettes. Minors councils can watch the vignettes. The court can watch the vignettes. The court can watch the diagnostic series. I've got the contingent visitation schedule. I did a presentation to the American Psychological Association National Convention on this. Then I came home, put it up on YouTube. Did the same seminar, so you can watch the seminar on YouTube, and you can watch them right on my website, or you can go to my YouTube channel and watch them. And so I've got other videos up there. I explain everything. If anybody cares, you got all the information, you got all the videos. You can seminars, you can watch them. For the diagnostic series, these are the 4 that I strongly recommend. There's others, assessing parenting and things like that. But diagnosing attachment pathology, that's your first one. Start with that. Attachment system's a motivational system. If a child's rejecting a parent, that's child abuse by one parent or the other. It's called a disorganized attachment. No organized strategy to bond to the parent. And that's caused by abusive or psychotic range parenting. Learn about the attachment system. Diagnosing a persecutory delusion, that's a mental status exam of thought and perception. It's a very linear exam, and you're looking for associational thinking rather than linear logical reasoning. And so you can do that and watch that. Diagnosing child abuse in the family courts. Is your path A, path B? Is a targeted parent abusive or is the allied parent abusive? So I talk about how to diagnose child abuse in the family courts. Or the DSM-5 diagnosis in the family court pathology. I tell everybody what it is. It's not parental alienation. It's a unicorn. That's a made-up thing. It just like kills me. I explained what it is at a professional level. The allied parent has a major psychiatric disorder from unresolved trauma that distorts their thinking and perception. They have a persecutory delusion. We know for a fact from the research, narcissistic personalities and borderline personalities collapse into persecutory delusions under stress. The divorce has collapsed them into a persecutory delusion. They create the persecutory delusion in the child. That's the pathology, child psychological abuse. They're creating a psychotic pathology in their child for secondary gain to the parent. So you got the videos, you got 1,000 explanations on this. And here's your fundamental issue, though, on the parent resources page: institutional betrayal and regulatory capture. And you will not have a solution as long as the forensic custody evaluators are financially exploiting you and solving nothing. So you can do whatever you want and rally for parental alienation and unicorns and resist refuse dynamic and whatever you want to do. Meanwhile, I'm going to go for actual solutions to things. We need to get competence in the from the mental health people in the family courts. The courts, the judges are making an incredibly important decision surrounding the child. The courts deserve the highest caliber of mental health services. And the children, this is child abuse. This is going to affect their entire life, dramatically affect the children deserve the highest caliber of mental health services. Made up pathology labels that people just make stuff up is the lowest caliber of professional services. Apply the DSM-5, apply attachment, apply family systems, apply delusional thought disorders, apply personality disorder, narcissistic borderline dark, apply the established knowledge, APA Ethics Code 2.04. If we apply the DSM-5, we can get a diagnostic assessment of the delusional thought disorder within 4 to 6 weeks. From that diagnosis, we can solve the pathology within 6 to 8 weeks. So within 3 months, we could entirely solve the problem in the family courts if we simply start applying the DSM-5 as the basis for our professional judgments. If you don't believe me, try it. Just try applying the established knowledge of psychiatric disorders to the pathology in the family courts. Everything will be solved. Do you do that? No, because the custody evaluators are making loads of money from keeping the pathology and doing their custody evaluation, not diagnosing it. If you don't diagnose it, you cover it up. Anyway, so there is no such thing as parental alienation. Stop making things up. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Apply the DSM-5. It's a delusional disorder. Apply the DSM-5. It's psychological child abuse. Apply the DSM-5, and everything is solved. Okay. So that's my Parental Alienation Awareness Day talk. It needs to stop. Stop using made-up pathology labels. Stop it, stop it, stop it. It hides the child abuse from view. It hides the child abuse from the court's understanding, and it prevents an effective intervention for the child abuse. And it's child abuse one way or the other, because that's the only thing that causes that symptom of a child rejecting a parent is child abuse. So with that, good luck, everybody. Take care.